Hello and welcome to AC Reads. Let's get into the stories that I have for you today. Story by Chunky Speech Fairy on Reddit. This is a true story but very hard to believe. An older poor Irish couple I once knew, they would be at least in their 90s if they were still alive, had a baby at a rural hospital. The baby was born with some sort of horrible genetic deformity and died immediately. The doctor told them, "Sorry, but you should never have another baby because they'll have the same thing." So they went through their life childless. Many years later, when they were in their 50s or 60s and living in California, they got a phone call out of the blue. It was their son. Apparently, on her deathbed, an elderly nun confessed that she had been part of a tragic cover-up. She had been the nurse when their healthy baby had been born on the same night as a wealthy couple who had a deformed baby born, who died. The husband of the wealthy couple had bribed the doctor to switch the babies. This couple immediately liquidated everything they had and moved back to Ireland, where they got to meet not only their son, but their grandchildren. Story by T. Brooks 1986 on Reddit. I haven't told anyone this entire story, as it isn't something I'm comfortable talking to people about face to face, but I feel it's probably something people should know, and think about at least. I was deployed to a place called the Triangle of Death in Iraq, in a little town called Yusufaya. We had been there for 6 months with a lot of intense fighting and were set to rotate to southern Iraq in a much less active spot. We were set to be replaced by the 502nd IR, part of the 101st Airborne. They had been a large part of the initial invasion of Iraq against Saddam's forces, but this was 2005 and was a much different war. When you transition units in the military, there's a period where you integrate, where you show the incoming unit your current operations. I happened to be in an outpost by one of the 2 remaining bridges across the Euphrates River when this started. We tried to caution them, show them the ropes, but they didn't want to listen to any of us. They kept saying we have a destiny, along with other hyper-aggressive statements. They didn't even seem to see Iraqis as human beings anymore. They were just like, we're going to fuck this place up, fuck them, rape, kill, pillage and burn. Across the street from this particular outpost was an Iraqi guy and his family who owned the small farm around the outpost. They had been really good to us, pointing out IEDs on the roads, as well as running and grabbing us food and supplies when we couldn't get any. For example, our supply truck was destroyed by an IED one time, so all we had were MREs to eat. We talked to the farmer and gave him a shopping list with money, and he bought us food at the local marketplace. He was a great guy and did stuff like that for us all the time. We took the 502nd guys on a foot patrol, and the farmer came out of his house, greeting us as he usually did, making his way towards us. We waved and started talking to him. When he went to shake the hand of a 502nd private, one private just hauled him off and punched him in the mouth, shouting racial slurs. Our platoon sergeant restrained him and sent him back to the outpost with my sergeant and I to escort him, while he tried to placate the farmer. We took that private to his sergeant, who congratulated him. When our platoon sergeant got back, he taught them a new one, but they didn't seem to care. I wasn't privy to the conversation between my platoon sergeant and his, but it didn't seem to have any impact either. Their attitude persisted until we finally left to our new location. They murdered that farmer's family a few months after we left, and they raped his daughter. As if this wasn't enough, a few months prior to this, I had been injured when my truck rolled over during a firefight, maybe 200 meters from where the killings took place. I had to be medevaced to Baghdad, where I recovered for a few weeks. When the truck rolled over, I lost my wallet in the dirt out there. in what we call the Iraqi moon dust, which is a powdery silt type of soil you find all over. Flash forward to a week or two after the killings took place. I received a package from Sergeant Green. It was my wallet that had been mailed on March 12, 2006, the same day as the killings. I recognise it's highly unlikely it happened just like this, but I can't help but wonder if they found my wallet on the way to commit the murders, or if they mailed it just before it happened. I'm not a religious person, but I like to think that it was perhaps the universe's way of trying to remind them of the front seat back seat period with our unit, where we had a simple message for them: treat people with respect and like human beings. It is all they want. I still have the wallet. It reminds me of the farmer and his family. I can't help but wonder if maybe we had been more focused on getting our message across to that 502nd group, this could have been avoided. Maybe we were in too much of a hurry to leave to safer territory, and that's why we neglected something that might have made a difference. We even had the option to volunteer to stay in Yusufaya with the 502nd if we wanted, but I declined. Not out of fear of combat, as I was comfortably numb to it at that point, but because I just wanted to go and relax, as I was homesick. It makes me think that I could have made a difference, but didn't, because of something simplistically selfish. It's probably silly to think that, and perhaps a bit cliché, but that's what I think. Story by Not My Blood on Reddit. My grandfather told me about the time he served in the British RAF during World War II. He was a navigator on a Lancaster bomber and did a lot of nighttime raids against German factories. He was returning one night from a mission when he ran into some friendly anti-aircraft fire and crashed into an English farmer's field. He ended up in an Air Force hospital with broken bones for several months. His crew were unscathed in the incident and were assigned to a notoriously dangerous pilot who kept losing his crew on previous missions. They unfortunately didn't survive the next mission, and my granddad had some serious post-war survivor's guilt because of it. He only really talked about it just before he died. I could tell he felt somehow responsible for their fate. But there was a silver lining to this story. My grandmother-to-be was working for the Royal Observer Corps in an early warning radar station at the time. She was particularly responsible for directing the anti-aircraft fire that took down my granddad. Having heard about the friendly fire incident, she took it upon herself to visit him in the hospital. They hit it off and ended up getting married after the war. Grandma shopped Grandpa down. Turns out it's a valid pick-up strategy. Story by The Worst Memories on Reddit. I've never been able to tell my loved ones about this. Sometimes you want to spare them the knowledge of just how much darkness there is inside of you. I'm not sure how I feel about telling complete strangers either, but it's been burning a hole inside of me for some time now. I made the mistake of falling in love with a fellow Marine. We kept it secret, of course, for professional reasons. We deployed together and still no one knew. We never touched each other, made eyes at each other, or ever did anything that would be deemed inappropriate during the deployment. A few months into the deployment, we were passing out food, candy, and other supplies to a village. It was part of the whole hearts and minds thing. A little girl walked up to get some candy from the man I was in love with. She couldn't have been more than 6 years old. She was holding a doll that someone had given her, with an IED sewn into it. As soon as she took the candy from his hand, the IED detonated. It blew both of them apart instantly, injuring 3 other people. I couldn't scream. I couldn't cry. I just remember watching. I didn't even remember hearing anything. The worst part was picking up the pieces of him afterward. Picking up the arms that had held me but were now in shreds. I don't even know how to describe what I felt like. It sounds cliché to say, but a big part of me died that day. Thank you for listening to AC Reads. Please subscribe if you'd like to see more videos from me, or you can also listen on our podcast, which is linked in the bio. For now, have a nice day and we'll see you soon.